Instead of Alabamians doing this work, making union wages with health care, with a pension, it's going to be done by non-union contractors for lower wages, who won't even have health care, won't have a pension.
Another one of my best friends, Jacob Morrison, is here with us. He's from the Valley Labor Report. He joins us here on the Alabama A&M $350 million Bulldog Hotline. Hey, did you know Alabama A&M's economic impact on Alabama is over $350 million every year? And the impact on North Alabama alone, $238 million every year. Learn more about what Alabama A&M can do for you and your community at aamu.edu. Jacob Morrison, how's it going? How you been feeling for the last week? How you doing? We talked and you thought that Harris was going to win pretty substantially, if I recall correctly, but that didn't happen. So how are you?
Yeah, well, didn't happen, so could have been better. Although, of course, I think it was pretty obvious. It was that prediction was given with a low confidence, and I had been talking about my concerns with the direction of the campaign. I did not think that the campaigning with Liz Cheney was going to be super effective. I was hoping that the campaign was privy to information that I was not, but it did not seem like that was a good thing. And we talked about how there were polls showing that people cared more about the economy, and that Harris was doing better when early in the campaign, when she was talking about the economy and she was talking about real proposals to make people's lives better, and also making people feel kind of seen with the problems that they were having, and so the move away from that to kind of the reporting is that it's kind of been at the behest of rich people in her circle, like Tony West, the chief legal counsel for Uber, and folks like that. Is really, really, really bad advice, and probably would have turned into bad advice for a Harris administration. In some ways,
boy, that is like some weird silver lining there. It's like, hey, if we would have won, we would have gotten less than what we wanted anyway. But okay, listen, let me cut you off there for a second, and let's think about this. Donald Trump won with every single demographic group. I believe the only place he did better was with college-educated women and with college-educated men. He did, I guess, slightly better with them. Still lost the men, but did slightly better with them. He lost ground basically everywhere else. That includes with workers. Is there a new? Is there? And we say workers. I mean, we see. I think we use a lot of terms incorrectly. Like we call people uneducated. That's stupid. We shouldn't do that. We should call them non-college educated. That might be the better way to say it. We call people workers when we could mean union workers or the guy who does plumbing in Huntsville, Alabama. They're both workers. But either way, he did better with workers, and he did better with the blue collar. He did better with basically everybody. But just for the purpose of our conversations and the conversations we have, he lost unions. He lost ground, he gained ground with unions. She lost ground everywhere.
Well, that's not actually true. The union members, people who are members of their unions, are actually the one demographic where he did not gain ground. He did gain ground, as you said, with the broader working class, and basically every other demographic, but there has been, but the polling has been pretty decisive that he did not gain ground with actual union members, which is interesting and indicative of the fact that to have.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. I want to understand what you're saying here. You're telling me that among union members, Kamala Harris did better than Joe Biden?
Did better or maintained. Yes, that's correct.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
I have not seen that. I would like, if you have, I'm not doubting you. I'm gonna take your word for it because you know this ground better than I do. I mean, there's a story out of the New York Times just as you were talking. I was looking it up. Unions bet big on Harris now they're bracing for the consequences. That's one of the angles that they're taking here. I would like to know more about how they did better there with them, and if they did, I mean that's surprising because I think, like I said before, when we say workers, I instantly think union workers. I don't know if that's what you mean when you say it, but I think there's a difference, like we're talking about. I know we're nibbling around the edges here, but I think it's important to kind of discuss this, because I think, like, when we discuss this, like I said, when the media calls people uneducated, that's just kind of not really true. That you're calling everyone. I mean, if you don't have a college degree, you're a moron. That's essentially what they're saying, which I don't think endears people to that label. Same thing with workers. Is the guy who works at a factory that's not unionized, is he a worker? Yes, he is. So, but you're saying actual union members increased or held ground. How much of that has to do with the explosion of public sector unions? Like the government wanted Kamala Harris, right? I mean, could that be part of it?
I think it was pretty consistent across like the union, like different kinds of unions that they held steady. And of course, different unions are going to be more inclined to one party or another. But the reporting is, and the exit polling and stuff like that has been that among union members, which are, admittedly, and the reason that was not definitive in the election is that union members are only 1 in 10 workers, right? So when I say working class, I don't just mean union members. If I'm talking about union members, I'm explicit about it, and Trump did gain ground among the broader working class, people under 100,000 and stuff like that.
Here's some numbers here. I found this. Union leaders insisted in the wake of Trump's victory that they had done their job. Initial exit polls show that Harris had won union households by 55 to 43, about the same as President Joe Biden's margins in 2020. In narrow Democratic Senate victories in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada, in the still uncalled Senate race in Arizona, union households might prove to be the difference makers. Maybe that would lead me to believe. Follow this with me, Jacob. If the differences in Senate victories in Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona, which has now been called, union households might have made the difference, then a lot of union people split the ticket. I mean, I'd have to draw that conclusion, right? They would split the ticket and vote for Trump at the top and then Galileo or whatever in Arizona at the bottom. Unions represent less than 10%, like you just said, of the private sector workforce. Their true failure was their inability to extend their influence on Harris's behalf beyond their memberships to the larger numbers of working class Americans who do not belong to any union at all, who came out in force and voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. Quote, working Americans elected President Trump because they trust him. So I guess that's the conversation we're having here. Talk to me about the split ticket vote. If you're in the union and you're in Michigan, I mean, I doubt anyone was saying, okay, vote for Trump, but then vote for the Democratic, whose name escapes me, excuse me. Was that Slotnick? And then as opposed to Mike Rogers. I mean, explain that to me.
Yeah, I don't think that's the correct read necessarily. I mean, you can have, I think the read is that the margin for Trump was so much higher for the president that the union margin did not make a difference.
Okay,
but
fair.
with people not with other non-union members not voting for the Republican down ballot, then the margin was closer and union members were able to make the difference. Right. I think that's the read, and I think there are a few different reasons for that. I think that there's a lot being made about a realignment, and really I think the correct understanding of what's going on with the working class and their politics is that it is a de-alignment. It is a de-alignment. Previously, FDR, for instance, had a decisive working class majority in support of his presidency and his program. And what we're seeing with, we've been seeing a move away from Democrats basically ever since then. And with Trump, there has been a more decisive move away, but that has not been, there's not a decisive working class majority. We're seeing it's something like 49-47 in favor of Trump, or 50-49 in favor of Trump among people who earn less than $100,000 a year, right? That is not the same kind of thing that we talked about with the FDR New Deal working class majority. It is a de-alignment. There is not actually anything you can say about the working class as a class did not do a thing. Right? The working class has become de-aligned from politics, and that presents a real problem for people who want to, who see class as a deciding factor in American politics, like I do, and who, think that to do good things, to do real decisive good things for working people, we need to have strong, decisive working class majorities, and that didn't happen for either candidate, and so, I'm very concerned about what's coming down the pike. Obviously, I got a call from, a building trade union leader here in Alabama talking about the work that was coming down the pike at Redstone Arsenal with Joe Biden's executive order mandating project labor agreements on federal construction over $35 million. There were
all that's going to be wiped away, right?
That's the assumption, right? And so now, instead of Alabamians doing this work, making good union wages with health care, with a pension and things like this, it's going to be done by non-union contractors for lower wages. Probably a lot of these people won't even have health care. They certainly won't have a pension. They probably won't even have a 401k. And that's your tax dollars that's going to be used to pay workers potentially not even from Alabama, lower wages, and pay these the people at the top of these contracting companies millions of dollars.
It's kind of funny. You talk about all of this, and we talk about the working class, and we talk about them, and I think that Donald Trump's wipeout proves that there was wide economic dissatisfaction across the board. If it was one or two groups here or there, but since it was almost all groups, so we talk about the unions specifically, maybe being a bit of an outlier if you drill down that far, that there was wide economic dissatisfaction. And now 2026 and 2028 will be based on how the country feels about the direction economically moving forward. I think we can all agree on that. So
and there's worldwide. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that FTC chart or the Financial Times chart where about the incumbent vote share over the last 2 years. This is apparently the first time in the history of the Western world where every single incumbent party across the developed nations lost vote share. And so there's real, worldwide, regardless of the ideology of the incumbent party. So there are really strong headwinds against the Democrats. But I think it's worth noting that an exception is Mexico. Not exactly at the same development level as the United States, but a real marked difference in terms of the way that the incumbent party performed. They won.
Okay, I get what you're saying. We got to take a quick time out here, but I agree with you. I think that's interesting to see incumbents across the board falling, and you're saying across the world that's happening, and I agree with that. And now it's going to be up to Trump to deliver here and see what happens next. But a crack, I think, has happened in the working class. I think a shift maybe is a better way to put that. And we'll see if Democrats can shift back there by stop focusing on Megan Thee Stallion's ass and start focusing on interest rates. That may be something that Democrats might want to think about, but we'll see where this all goes moving forward. Jacob Morrison, thank you very much. 9:30 to 11 right here on WVNN. You can hear that show, The Valley Labor Report. Don't miss it. That is this weekend, 9:30 to 11. Thank you very much to him for being here. We'll talk with him soon.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.